Hello, my name is Octavia. I would like to take you a little bit on a journey what the meaning of the Saturn Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius that happened on the 21st of December 2020 will be or is regarding America and regarding the world. It is the second video I'm doing. I did a forecast or a video on Europe and mentioned America and the world, but I thought it would be better I do an English edition where I put the main focus on America. So, first I would like to tell you how I work. My method is I look to the history of events, I look into the actual horoscope and the actual sky. So, zodiac sign versus constellation. I rely on the Sabian symbols as Dane Rudhyar wrote about them or found their inner meaning. And this video is not the first, especially not on America. So some of the issues I already explained in other videos. So you find these videos mentioned in the comment section. So please look for links, timestamps, and other videos that are rather like a foundation for this video in case you are missing a part. The structure of this video will be that I would like to introduce to you how Kepler saw Saturn, Jupiter and their conjunctions because he opened the door for the greater meaning of it. I will take you on a short journey in animation, how the sky view looked and how it was seen in ancient times. And then I go into detail of the cycle, when it started, towards the future, which was 1980, and the current conjunction that is the impulse for the Aquarian age for the coming 2000 years. So we have various cycles that are intertwining, and I go into detail with that. I will then look at the horoscope of America, show you an oddity, look into the esoteric view and on Saturn, Jupiter on all continents, and how it will be in the coming cycles, and a short summary of it, but it is really a short summary. So, this is one of the most admirable work that I've ever seen. Johannes Kepler saw that there is a pattern when Saturn and Jupiter meet in conjunctions. He found that they are meeting in each element for 200 years. So every 20 years they are meeting in another sign of the same element and forming a triangle in the sky due to this. And while he calculated and tried to explain this to other people and his students, while drawing the degrees he found for the conjunction, he realized they formed this pattern on their journey over 800 years. As you may know, we have 4 elements in a horoscope: earth, water, fire, air. And each series of conjunction takes place 200 years, which means that a complete cycle takes 800 years. So he saw that we have a triangular shape within 200 years and this pattern in 800 years. So we have a whole series that takes 800 years. He realized that the Platonic solids can be found either in the way that the planets move or how they meet with each other. And in this connection, the triangular form for Saturn and Jupiter. What is so special? Besides all the specialty that I showed you already, which is, in my view, a kind of wonder. 2020 is an extraordinary year. And we had the triple conjunction of Jupiter with Pluto, Saturn with Pluto in Capricorn, and then Jupiter and Saturn met in Aquarius. But they took the transformative energy from Pluto, from Capricorn into Aquarius. Also, the conjunction happened after a total solar eclipse. And at the same day, there was the end of one spin of the Tzolk'in, which was an incredible galactic energy taking place on the 14th of December. So both of these huge energy packets came together in Aquarius with their meeting. It was the 21st of December, so it was solstice. The moment the Earth axis on one of its extreme, and when the Sun meets the solstice point in the sky. Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted on the degree of the US inaugurations. So whenever America is inaugurating a president, it is doing it since 1937 on the degree between 1 and 0 and 1 Aquarius. So the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction is on exact the spot where America is inaugurating US presidents since the 20th century. Regarding this, 2019, we had a solar eclipse already on that spot. On the 20th January 2019, we had a solar eclipse, and I wrote an article that, in my view, Donald Trump was not finishing his term. I put the article into the section because it may be quite interesting to see the relation that I'm showing, how I come to that interpretation. I'm still not sure whether he will finish it. I taped this on the 4th of January, and news broke that he managed to pressure in Georgia about the election. So I'm really not sure whether he will face a second impeachment. But none of this is really a surprise for me. And if you want to know that, please watch my video on the US election. Nothing surprising for me so far. Nevertheless, 20th January 2019 had a connection with 2001, 9/11, because it was the same Saros cycle happening. So 2019 had a connection with 9/11 already. I come later to that point because 9/11, the year and the George Bush era, is a real oddity in this here. Saturn shows usually in the night sky the king. What the sun is in the day sky is Saturn in the night sky. Both are a symbol for the king. But in the night sky, Jupiter is the crown prince. So a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction was always seen as the crown prince taking over, and that they meet and talk about ideas, ethics, rules, and laws, especially as they were in Capricorn before. As mentioned, we are finishing or starting an 800-year cycle, depending on how you see it, because the last conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter was 1226. 1226. So, depending on whether you see, or when you see that the Aquarian age started, and I did also 2 videos on that in English, Look into the Sky and Star of Bethlehem, What Now?, where I go into 2 various ways to see how an age started. So when did the Piscean age start, and when may the age of Aquarius start? And you could discuss whether it may have started around 1700s, because from then on, one star of the Aquarius constellation, not the zodiac sign, the constellation, was near the ecliptic when the 21st March, the equinox, happened. So again, I refer you to other videos if you want to know what I'm talking about here. But there may be an interpretation when the age of Aquarius started, but nevertheless, this point, Saturn Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius between 0 and 1 degree Aquarius, is either already in the Aquarian age or is leading into the Aquarian age, because we will have Saturn, Jupiter in air signs for the next 200 years. And in a horoscope, in astrology, it is usual that you take the first horoscope as an impulse. So this is the impulse for the Aquarian age. I would like to show you a little bit of an animation movie that I will start, or that I will create by looking into the real sky. And it is about this idea of the king and the crown prince meet, and the crown prince is taking over the place of the king. The king resigns. I lead you therefore to another software. I already prepared the screen for, you can see it here above, Saturn Jupiter 2020. I start in the summer of 2020 at about dawn time. Of course not in the summer, but nevertheless I needed a screen wide enough for the time lapse to take place. When I start and push the button, we will go into steps of 1 day. Here is Saturn, here's Jupiter, and you will see their movement across the sky. And I would like to watch you on the size, on the shape of Saturn and Jupiter. How they meet, how they look in the sky. So I will start now. In the summer you could see them like that. Saturn lost a bit of his brightness, but was at the same height as Jupiter, and all of a sudden Jupiter comes and climbs up to Saturn that is smaller, and reaches it, and both go away. So for the ancient times, it looked like Saturn was bright, but then all of a sudden Jupiter started to climb, reached it, and then Jupiter was in the sky visible, while Saturn moved below the horizon, was gone. And this was quite an amazing task. So it takes place every 20 years, but not every 20 years you can see it. It is not always visible in the night sky. Sometimes they only saw them approaching, all of a sudden both were gone, and then just Saturn and Jupiter came separated again. But this year we could see the whole conjunction taking place, and that both of them disappeared from the sky. And when they reappear, Jupiter will come. So the crown prince will be the first in the sky again. And this is important. So from the mythology and from what we see in the sky as a metaphor, the crown prince takes the place of the king. In a democracy, it would mean the vice president takes over the presidency, if we speak about that. America is quite interesting regarding this. I would like to watch my election video because I explain it more in depth. America has a history of presidents dying in office or resigning due to the Saturn Jupiter conjunction taking place in a campaign year. So there was a saying, whenever there is election in a 0 year, then the president dies. In fact, it is whenever there is a Saturn Jupiter conjunction in a campaign year, then the president will not finish his term. His term, her term. So far it is his term. The thing is, for America, this took place in earth signs. Please watch at least this part of the video of my US election video, because I also give times and dates and which president it was. There is one exception of the rule. Ronald Reagan survived, but it was the first conjunction already in an air sign. And there is another president that did not die during his presidency, but he had no campaign. He was the only one running for presidency. Nevertheless, he did not get all the electorals because one guy voted against him for whatever reason. Nevertheless, there was no campaign during Saturn Jupiter, so there was no crown prince. And as there was no crown prince challenging him, there was no one gulping his throne. So, America's presidents in the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in earth signs had a tendency that the president did not survive their terms. They did not finish their terms as they were inaugurated. Knowing this, one may have a different view on whether Trump may resign or not, whether he will give it to Vice President Pence in order to get pardoned, or whether there will be something with Joe Biden, or whether none of this is happening because Ronald Reagan broke the pattern. We will see. But nevertheless, America is very sensitive to it, and therefore I'm doing a video almost special on America. What's so special with this conjunction taking place? The Saturn-Jupiter conjunction 200-year cycle in Earth is complete. It completed with 2000. George Bush was elected. As far as I know, he had not an assassination attempt. He survived his presidency. But there was 2001 9/11. America had another challenge taking place. So it was not the king challenged, but the hegemon was challenged. Earth's only hegemon so far at that point in time was challenged, and not the king. And this may be another view on the issue, that America was the king of the world and was challenged by a crown prince from Saudi Arabia called Osama bin Laden. One may see it in this or the other way. I know that this may be quite challenging to you when I say this, but I'm viewing it from Europe and I'm viewing it from an astrological point of view. And I would like to go deeper with you into this and how this may have unfolded. So it is very special. See the video on the US election. It is special because it is the first time since 2026 that a conjunction takes place in Aquarius and is visible. Also, it is so special because it is one of the closest alignments we had, forming one bright star, which was almost what was happening at the Star of Bethlehem, except that when the Star of Bethlehem happened, Mars was also Mars was also there. 1980 started the air cycle. 2000 it went in Earth science again. 2001 we had 9/11. But now is the full start of the air cycle with this conjunction. Nevertheless, for the interpretation of what is going to happen in the air cycle for 200 years, we take the horoscope of 1980. If we want to take a look of what might happen in the Aquarian age, we take the 21st of December 2020, so the current one. And this is what makes it so special. This conjunction may have an impact for the coming 2,000 years. And therefore, I think this is a test for America, whether America is really ready for the age of Aquarius. It may have shouted like that, it may have a constitution like that, but it had slavery. It was not all men were created equal. It had its tests, it had its tasks. It had 2001. And what now, after Trump? So, please, for further info, see the video on the new astral plane. I also did that in English. I give you just some bits and bytes, and it's up to you whether you want to dive deeper into it or whether you want to research it on your own. Coming to 1980, this is the horoscope for Washington. Just a short reminder, 1980, Cold War, Iron Curtain, USSR versus USA. There were a lot of, well, one could see that both were hegemons, at least both were atomic powers. And there were a lot of wars in other countries taking place on behalf of USSR or America. But there was a very special time taking place, whether we remember it or knew it or not. There was the Grand Mosque seizure in 1979. I was studying political science. I have a bachelor in political science, and one of the topics that was mentioned is that this seizure was, in fact, the foundation for 9/11. And especially it inspired Osama bin Laden, because he got quite angry about Saudi Arabia, as a lot of Arab countries, because they let American troops into the mosque in order to free it, in order to get them out. The mosque was suffering quite some destruction. But whether you know it or not, 1979, 1980 was the end of a time period for the Islamic countries. They waited for the Mahdi. Just as the Hebrew and Jewish or the Christianity at a whole is waiting for a Messiah or a new Christ to be born, which is not taking place in flesh. Please note, there is no need for an Armageddon. Please watch my video on the new astral plane. This is a misinterpretation taking place in my view. But they waited for the arrival of their new Mahdi. And since 1979-1980, the Arab countries are in war, more or less. The first Gulf War took place between Iran and Iraq. Iran got rid of the Shah and took hostages in the US embassy. The strange thing is, Ronald Reagan was elected versus Jimmy Carter. And on the day, 20th January 1981, inauguration, the hostages were released. Iran took it as a personal fight against Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was quite a, in my view, advanced president. He's a tragic figure, in my view, regarding history, but he was very advanced in terms of technologies that are not oil related. And of course, he did not have very much friends in Arabian oil-producing countries. And what do you see in this horoscope? You see a Neptune at a descendant. Neptune is really having a partnership question here. Are you my partner or not? And are you in with money and value systems or not? So Jimmy Carter was already challenging the whole value system around oil. Nevertheless, this is only one issue for America in this horoscope. You see, Saturn Jupiter in Libra in the 5th house is a creativity, a source of creativity for diplomacy, and a diplomacy for power issues. And here is another issue. Remember 2020, Saturn Jupiter together with Pluto in Capricorn? Saturn Jupiter together with Pluto in Libra. It was not taking place 2000. It was not taking place on other occasions. I have to research when this happened so far. But it is similar to the current one that Saturn Jupiter was together with Pluto in the same sign. And not even that. Saturn Jupiter met at between 9 and 10 degrees in Libra. Pluto was on 24 Libra. When Jupiter met Pluto, it was between 24 and 25. And when Saturn met Pluto, it was between 24 and 25. Even though it was 2 years between these dates. This year was 1980. Jupiter met Pluto, 1981. On the degree Pluto was at the moment of this conjunction. Saturn met Pluto in Libra, 1982. Between this 24 to 25. At the same degree, Pluto was in 1980. So whatever they are discussing then with Pluto while they march on. This year it was different. First they talked with Pluto, then they met. I hope I can make that clear. They meet, Crownprince and King meet, talk with each other, then the Crownprince meets Pluto, then Saturn meets Pluto, and in the meantime, the hostages the hostage situation takes place. Jimmy Carter is no longer there. Ronald Reagan comes. The whole oil issue takes place. Blah 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 here and there. 2020 was completely different. First, Saturn talked with Pluto, Jupiter talked with Pluto 3 times, thrice, and then they met here. Amazingly enough, between 0 and 1 degree, we find here Mars in that horoscope, which means that on 1980, we had already a lot of stuff taking place that we see in 2020. It is a real impulse horoscope. What's also similar to this year, Mercury and Sun meet in conjunction, which is similar to what took place on the 21st of December. They were also in an exact conjunction within 1 degree. Here is it really exact, but there it was within 1 degree. What I really find amazing also here is that Neptune is oil, is representing oil also in another symbolism in a horoscope on a mundane level. And on the 13th of December, the total solar eclipse was exactly on that Neptune of that horoscope on the 23 degrees of Sagittarius. There is really, really, really a lot going on that is activated right now in 2020. We had quite some strong earthquakes around the earth, especially in Italy, Algeria. Voyager passes Saturn. GPS clock is introduced. Solidarność is in Poland. A movement that freed Poland or got Poland democratic and was part of the breaking up of the Iron Curtain. USSR is combating in Afghanistan. So the Afghanistan situation starts. And remembering Reagan is surviving all of that, but he had, it was a triple conjunction. Jupiter and Saturn met thrice. And Reagan had 3 life-threatening situation. He had 2 surgeries and 1 assassination attempt. And while he was in narcosis, George H.W. Bush took over for a few hours. And when Reagan woke up, he took back the presidency. So there was a kind of Crownprince presidency situation, but it never got to the real power, the power taking over of the Crown Prince. If you see George Bush as the Crown Prince, he did it then later in another election. What I find, just to mention, the esoteric mantra for Libra is, I choose the path between the power lines. And the power lines can also be seen as the both blocks of the Cold War. Libra is a symbolism for diplomacy, and it is a symbolism for relationship. It is it can be interpreted as relationships. Libra is the evening sky Venus that is very wise already in relations, and that likes friendship, that likes relation due to ethics or an inner value. It is a value system in relations. And what do you see? Diplomacy, creativity took over. The power struggle ended. The polarities, the blocks dissolved. And America was the only hegemon. And America was a creative hegemon. It, I say was, really, it is no longer. It had one of its peaks under Obama, because Obama was able to revive it again after Bush Jr. destroyed it. Nevertheless, so Bush was like a warlord hegemon towards the others. He demanded that they are fighting the same wars, even though some of the wars were replacements and not the real fight. Obama rather took the real fight and was a friend towards friends, and was also, during that time, America was a friend also towards patronizing science and technology. So as a giver and helper of an common advancement of Earth in science and technology, as really as friends among friends. Under Trump, this is no longer the case. Whatever is about to come, we may see, but nevertheless, George Bush was one point in time, and Trump continued that. This is how I see it. If you cannot deal with what I say, imagine a big imaginary box where you put in everything I say that makes no sense to you, because it is my meaning or how I am viewing a horoscope. If you cannot go along with it, it's perfectly okay, because this is an interpretation. And you may see it, of course, in another way, but this is my view. Just as I mentioned, I also look on the Sabian symbols. The Sabian symbol of the Saturn Jupiter conjunction of 21st December is the same as every US inauguration since FDR 1937. Not the first ones of FDR, because then the old rule was still in place, that the inauguration is on the 4th of March. But due to the era of automobiles and trains and planes, a president did not need that much time to move to Washington as it was in former times. So whatever they did, that they did it on the first and second, between 0 and 1 degree of Aquarius, I have no idea. If there was an astrologer involved, I would really like to know. But nevertheless, during FDR, they changed the inauguration date. So FDR was the first one inaugurated, 1937, as far as I know. So the Sabian symbol is an old Adobe mission in California. It is about the power inherent in all great human works to endure far beyond the worker's lifespan. It is about going into a foreign or alien environment, but taking over forms to live, like the Adobe mission is the way they are building in a kind of desert surrounding in order to have good building around them. So the missionaries that came took over that way to build in order to be able to live there, but also to do their work of missionary work. It is a missionary can also seen as a symbol of spirituality and idealism, that you have forces at work, that you have social force at work. It is about the enduring character, human achievement, concretization of an ideal, immortalization of an individual due to what they are doing, the great collective cultural enterprise and what they are building. So Saturn Jupiter sets a point, on this spot, an old Adobe mission. Saturn was seen as law of time, the lord of time, and Jupiter was sometimes seen as one of the gods, Zeus, in the sky, the pantheon, but also a form of spirituality and religion before Neptune took over one part of the spirituality and religion symbolism. So Saturn is one symbol also for the Jewish God, while Jupiter is more a symbolism for the Greek god or the Roman god, the god of the wine, of Bacchus and whatever. So of a more spiritual way of living, but also then of also church. So Saturn and Jupiter meeting is also like a huge clockwork, like a cosmic clockwork in how, what structure and what laws are there. Is there a law of God? Is there a rule of God? A rule like a kind of regulation, like the Ten Commandments, but also is there a way of life? how to live a spirituality. And if you ponder on it, then you realize that a lot of things may then be seen as a way of thinking. Religion very often impregnates the way we think, or forms the way we think, and how we deal with the world, culture and religion. So this is quite not only due to the planets, but also due to the symbolism. It's quite an intensive symbolism taking place. I was interested in what difference was it when the inauguration was taking place on the 4th of March. So I checked the inauguration times, and it was between 14 and 16 degrees Pisces. So it was not constantly on one day or on 1 degree in the zodiac. 14 degree Pisces is a lady wrapped in a large stole of phosphor, the use of intelligence and mental subtlety as a protection against storms and trials. Then Rudyard wrote about it that glamour can be a protective shield. So there is a need of glamour in it. It is a lady that is wrapped. But a lady also needs a status symbol. She needs something that not everybody can come to her to bother her. But it is also a kind of adaptation to a culture, to a situation. It has to do with the status in within a group. So it is a very interesting symbol that one part of the presidency was glamour. It was to represent something. It was, to act like a king. There is something about it that has to do with pomp and circumstances. The other part is an officer instructing his men before a simulated assault under a barrage of living shells to train aggressiveness. So there is this mixture between the commander-in-chief that is going through challenging situation or training challenges situation so that the group value is protected or demonstrated, and at the same time there is this glamorous. This is really pomps and circumstances. It speaks for itself in the mixture of these. It is a training of aggressiveness, and in it symbolism of the Piscean age. And this is something that got so clear within me while I was preparing this. It is in Pisces taking place. We have the Saturn Jupiter conjunction in earth signs, and the inauguration takes place in the midst of Pisces, in the Piscean age. And all of a sudden they change it to an Aquarian inauguration. And that Aquarian inauguration has a note of spirituality, and it is different. So here you have a complete change in value and in expression of the presidency in itself within the 20th century. While still the Piscean age and is happening, and the Aquarian age is not really emerged. America is doing that change. And this change is what's on the task, what's on the challenge. Because Saturn Jupiter is now asking America, do you really mean that? Do you mean what you said all along, all the centuries? All men are created equal, with God-given, inalienable rights. Is this really what you think? I just want to, well, I hope that you got what I want to say. America is such a mirror for the Piscean age. Also to challenge, to conquer, and to have the sword in his hand in a missionary effort to give another way of life to another country. And now the Aquarian age comes. So you have this whole impact of the Piscean age already embedded, and then a change occurs, a change of choice within America. So, America prepared that there is conflict possible. Even though they said, we are a continent, they prepared for conflict. Conflict came. It was dissolved under 1980s Libra, and then 9/11 happened. And America was tested again. Hey, in fact, all the conflicts now seem to be dissolved. But then, not a nation came, but one single actor. So Saturn Jupiter got back into Earth signs. Something that I also want to give as a food of thought. In all these Saturn Jupiter conjunction in Earth, people, well, ordinary people somehow, were allowed to have possessions. It is one of the foundation of America that all people were free to have possessions. And one of the struggle America had in this time was that people are no possession. So what is it that you can possess? House? Land? Trees? Food? So many philosophers in American thinking and maybe even the founding fathers, but around the founding fathers, around the time America was formed as a nation and the Constitution was written, they pondered on possession. That having possessions is a right, a human right. Saturn, Jupiter in Earth signs. But now we are changing into air signs. One of the struggle that America faced was slavery. People are no possession. You cannot possess a person. Neither in emotion, nor in a ritual called wedding, nor in a relation called parent-child relation. So what can you really possess? So one part of the issue towards the Aquarian age is a true letting go. It is also part of my video on the astral plane, so I would like to encourage you again to watch it, because the axis Taurus and Scorpio is quite active in the coming years. So detachment, attachment, what can you possess and what do you have to let go is one of the issues taking place right now, but not necessarily of the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. I'm just saying it. So, this is Saturn-Jupiter conjunction for America, 10th, 11th house cusp. It's quite amazing to see it there, because Capricorn, Aquarius are where they used or should be, 10th and 11th house, with the highest planet or the highest star is Sun with Mercury and Pluto. So this is all a power struggle right now for America. If you consider the other horoscope, 1980s, it was somehow an amazing time of creativity because it took place in the 5th house. Now you have all this character of governing and everything is visible for everyone. It is really about power in government. It is about the sun in the government house. It is about the king. It is about the presidency. Not only in the inauguration degree, but also on the meaning of the sun, on Saturn, on Jupiter, and on Pluto. What is the power of the people? What is the power of the king? What is the power of Parliament? What is the power of Congress, of Senate, of House of Representatives? What is it? What structure did you do? You really had a lot of thinking on the balance of power, on that the powers are separated within a democracy. And what are you doing now? Is there an executive? Is there a legislative? Is it really separated any longer? Or are you on the path of dictatorship? Are you on the path that the pomp took over? I mean, Trump was a pompous president. So what is the sign and the meaning of the presidents to follow? I just wrote it here. This is 0 to 1 degree Aquarius with 0 to 1 degree Capricorn, and we are going to have between 0 and 1 degree Saturn Jupiter conjunction in Gemini. From now on, all inauguration of presidencies for America are very important. It is not just about one president, all presidents to come. But this is also flowing backwards in time, as you see in the 1980s chart. But all ingresses of planet into a sign will be of importance in the coming centuries, because whenever, especially a slow planet, is changing the sign, he will activate Jupiter, Saturn, and this whole thing, not only for America, for the whole Earth. But it will have a special meaning for America. So whatever is to be seen for everyone. But the people are engaged right now with suffering from a pandemic. Here is Neptune, maybe not oil, maybe it is, maybe not. But the people are suffering from a pandemic. They are in the 12th house, they are in hospitals. They are not really visible. They are ill. The people are ill, and what is the king doing? This is one of the meanings of this horoscope. The North Node is in Gemini, so it is pointing already towards the full circle of the full triangle, I must say, of the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, because it is also a bridging horoscope towards the energy coming in Gemini. So it is really quite a struggle horoscope, quite a challenging horoscope. Neptune in squaring the nodes, North Node and the South Node. America is, due to the pandemic and a struggle that it does not know what is its root and what is its future. So nevertheless, we have to see it as a look into the future. Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, and from now on, every slower planet changing sign will activate this. It will be, if there is an astrologer listening to me and working in America or for America, I would recommend you take very special care if a slower planet changes sign. What that means for the politics and the presidency. You see there is an imbalance in the horoscope because you have everything on one side of the horoscope between the 2nd and the 9th house. So there's everything in the transpersonal and then in the personal sector. There's very little to do with partners so far. But America has to do the step towards the transpersonal. The personal ray of America, according to Alice Bailey, is the 6th ray of the old Piscean age. And the soul ray is the 2nd ray, love and wisdom, which is the energy of the solar system in itself, and also the energy of Jupiter. So America has to align with a greater purpose if it is ready for this, because this is the test. The test is whether it is able to step towards the transpersonal, but Trump is a very personal president. He is the impersonification of how America thinks that an American man should be. But that's not enough. America was a hegemon for the world, and then it is not enough to be an American. One has to transcend that in order to become a cosmopolitan for that job. Or America will fall back. That's also okay. In my view, it has already fallen back. It is no longer hegemon. But the impulse for America is rise to the occasion. Rise beyond what you know, what you are, towards the soul, towards the greater picture. And it has all the help from the cosmos because all the planets, all the stars are within it here. As I wrote in the introduction, I also look into the real sky. Please watch the other videos that I said look into the sky and Star of Bethlehem, because I explain a bit more the constellation versus zodiac sign. The Saturn Jupiter conjunction took place or takes place between Capricorn and Sagittarius, the constellation of Capricorn and Sagittarius, because we have a difference of constellation and zodiac sign. And I show it in that video. As you see here, Aquarius, for instance, is quite a long constellation, and this is not 2,000 years for the sun to pass, because Aquarius starts with in the midst of Capricorn. Sagittarius is here, so the constellations do not have the size of 30 degrees. There is no equal measurement in the ecliptic, so you can see it not like that. But there is a reason why we say that there is, on the 21st of March, 0 degree Aries, and I explain that in these videos. Nevertheless, I looked at the fixed stars for that moment for America, at the angle for Washington. I have a little reminder that I am explaining a little bit about Europe. Because I deleted the horoscope for Europe, I do not show it, but I want to explain here a little bit of the difference. America in fixed star symbolism, Jupiter and Saturn aligning with certain fixed stars, show an emphasis on the intellect, on philosophy, on independent thinking. It has, again, the constellation of Pisces active, because it has Al-Rasha, the knot of the constellation of Pisces in it, which means that it should bring together the different views, because each fish tries to swim in another direction. And Al-Rasha tries to combine both views. So it is about a wise and spiritual creative leadership. It is about keeping the record straight. It is about really keeping record. It's about moral codes. It is active diadem, which is the crown on the hair of Berenike. Berenike gave all her hair in order to get her husband back that was imprisoned during, I don't know whether it was a crusade or whether it was a battle. But she gave everything that was of worth. So when I dig deeper into that Jupiter and Saturn are aligned with diadem. Diadem is the suffering and the sacrifice that a worker and women do every day in order to support life. So America has one of its tasks that it is wise in its leadership, that it finds opportunity for the simple and mundane things, and that it is generous. It has the shadow side, one who uses others. But the real issue here is people suffer in order to keep this life going. And it is an emphasis on workers and on slaves and on women issues. America has to set the record straight on that in order to get into the age of Aquarius. You have to take a look at who is doing the self-sacrifice, who is suffering. And the other one is Vindemayatrix. Vindemayatrix is in the constellation of Virgo, the other side of Pisces. And this has to do with every work you do in order to get the harvest in. Especially the grape wines, the grapes that are giving then the juice for the wine. So it's a little bit towards Bacchus. But on the other hand, it is really what is it that you do to harvest things? And are there new technologies for that? Are there new impulses for that? Is there a new way of life also on that? But nevertheless, with this here, the simple moment, the simple mundane things, it is about getting spirituality back to the simple things of life and to worship them, giving them value and giving the people value, valuing the people that are doing the work. The reference to Europe is that Europe's horoscope is completely different. It has Saturn Jupiter on the seventh house cusp. It is giving itself as an example towards the European Union. So it wants to live the ideals of the Aquarian age within the European Union or within a partnership system. And the fixed stars are dealing with perseverance, that Europe has to get a steady course to go whatever there is, and that it is not buying into dramas due to dramas, which may be a symbolism for the Brexit, because the Brexit is a drama due to a drama. It was not necessary doing it. It was not essential doing it. It is just creating drama because all the people were yelling all the time that they were whatever. So after the Brexit happened, and the Brexit happened shortly after Jupiter Saturn, Europe has to get the partnership together again and to keep a steady pace, and that it is offering this as a symbolism for the age of Aquarius as an equality of states, that they want to be a union of equality, that each of the states working together as a union, knowing that they are equal. And one of the issues is already the vaccination that is taking place. the vaccination was given equally to all states. Therefore, Germany, even though everything was produced or developed in Germany for the first part of that, and then it was produced in Belgium, but every country, every state within the European Union got the same amount for the people. No matter who they were or how much money they paid for the development, every state got the same amount as a sign of equality amongst the states of Europe. So there is really another emphasis in America. The emphasis, when you take Washington as the capital, is really to look at the worker, at the people that are giving a sacrifice, and to do another thinking, an independent thinking, and to worship and take value in other things of life. Oddity. Fasten your seatbelts, my dears. If you are an astrologer, it may be worth digging into this. On the outer wheel, you see the Saturn Jupiter conjunction taking place at the election of Abraham Lincoln. In the inner is the horoscope for 9/11. You see that Saturn Jupiter conjunction, Abraham Lincoln, is the same as the sun was on 9/11. If you remember 1980, Saturn Jupiter conjunction between 9 and 10 degrees Libra, there you find Mars. If you remember, Mars was at 0 degree Capricorn. Where do you find here 0 degree Capricorn is also on 9/11. There are so many issues taking place between Abraham Lincoln 9/11 and the Saturn Jupiter conjunction right now in 1980 that it is almost breathtaking. This year means midsum, midpoints. It is worth watching it. It is worth checking it and pondering about it, especially when you consider what I said about property, that you are allowed to have property, and that people do not belong to property. Animals do not belong to property. Can soil belong to property? What is it? What is the right that is given? But also, how do you deal with people? And therefore, you have also a voice through time. If you watch the US election video, I am asking you to pay attention that you are in critical times that are similar to the time of Abraham Lincoln regarding civil war maybe taking place. And this is another voice and echo through the times that some of the issues Abraham Lincoln spoke about are not solved, and it is one of the reasons of 9/11. It is one of the threats running through 9/11 towards the here and now, because it is not solved. You have Saturn 40 degrees Gemini, Uranus 14 degrees Gemini, depending on how you see it, and whether you remember, there is right now the nodes in the midst of Gemini. I would like to show you here. So there are really issues going on, and it is an oddity. I'd like to show it. If you are an astrologer, ponder on it, because it might be a key to something going on. So, Earth. Here you see marked in red, where Saturn Jupiter conjunction is taking place on the axis, because in mundane astrology you take a look at where is it occurring on the axis, which means ascendant, descendant, or MCIC, because there it has the most impact. For America, you see, it is running through Canada most of the time, but then it is Oregon, Washington, upper part of California, and then running into the Pacific. You see here Greenland and Brazil. You see a lot of Africa. I did this square too large. In fact, it is the western part of Africa and along Scandinavia, parts of Scandinavia. And then you have this pillar here with China, Russia, Japan, Korea, South Korea, North Korea, of course, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand, and Australia. The Aborigines also did ceremony on the 21st of December due to that time. It is very interesting to watch that, especially if you regard, if you think about America's only hegemon after Libra. But now we see a bit of an interesting issue going on. I would think that we get a multiple hegemony government, world, whatever, that the African Union, the United States of Africa, as they are trying to form them, will take a larger place in the times to come. I think that the north-southern cleavage or the north-southern differences, the gap is closing. And if you watch also, or if you check it, you see the BRIC states. Brazil is completely in it. Russia, China, South Africa may also belong to that, or Africa as a whole, as a large. So I think that we may see an increase of importance of these continents, so that we really may come to an equality between the continents. That there is no longer the developed North industrial nation versus the South third world nations. This is no longer taking place. This is a real swap of power. This is a change of power that is taking place already, and it is an impulse towards that. Brazil is an authoritarian state. It is not ready to become so far what it should be. But if you watch the astral video, the astral plane in the Aquarian age, you see that I mentioned that Brazil is having a lot of fourth ray quality. Fourth ray will be active 2025. Brazil will get a boost. So we will see what happens politically. It will be in the area where there may be change of governments. Again, wherever Saturn-Jupiter conjunction is taking place on the axis, ascendant, descendant, MCIC, there is the possibility of an overthrow of government due to the Crownprince taking over the throne. So all of this in red can mean that there is a change of government, but also regarding the age of Aquarius, there is the inflow of energy taking place right now on Earth. A little bit of the esoteric view. I did not do it in the horoscopes. I want to give a little bit of overview, and I painted a triangle in there. Esoteric astrology is a lot about triangles, but it is also a lot of geometry. It is founded on the 7 rays. Aquarius as the sign of the coming age, because the equinox will be there. Is a 5th ray sign, and the ruler of the 5th ray is Venus. Just to mention, I wrote it down. In esoteric astrology, it does not mean that the ruler of a sign is also the ruler of the ray. So a sign can have another ray than the ruler of it. In fact, most of the time it is it. So Aquarius is a 5th ray sign, and the traditional ruler Saturn is 3rd ray, Uranus is 7th ray, and the esoteric ruler is Jupiter, 2nd ray. The 2nd ray is a very important ray because our solar system is 2nd ray. This is love, wisdom. For us, this means Saturn as traditional ruler, Jupiter as esoteric ruler, both meet in Aquarius. This is a whammo in esoteric astrology. This is the esoteric and mundane impulse one can get. Both of them meet. Wow. Saturn is a symbol for higher thinking of the structure that we were building or that we are building through our thinking. Saturn is, if you consider a beehive and bees, Saturn is the beehive and Mercury are the little bees. And the little bees flow through the flowers that the beehive is telling them. And what they bring back will be honey or not. So if you are structured in your thinking and you know what you are thinking about, then your bees fly to the right flowers, so to say, and bring back all what is necessary that you can do the honey. So with Saturn and Jupiter meeting in Aquarius esoterically means that we are ready now for an inflow of thought forms, of new insights, especially Uranus. Uranus is inspiration, insight, electricity, high technology, equality, brotherhood also. So we have already an inflow of information, of new insight, of ideas, of new projects, of whatever is going to take place. So if you are in sleep, if you are in meditation, or if you are just in a flow, as we say in whatever new language, towards that good feeling of feeling good what you're doing, then you may have insights of, hey, I could do this, I could do that. And if it contributes also Earth, because Saturn is a 3rd ray planet, Earth is a 3rd ray planet, 3rd ray is also humanity, it must be for the good of humanity, because Saturn is here for humanity. So if we consider all of that, then we get an inflow of insights, of inspiration that is here to contribute Earth and humanity in the new time. Libra is considering diplomacy, relation, value system, and also new kind of aesthetics, because Venus is one of the rulers. Venus is not only money, Venus is also the beauty of life. Venus is the soul of Earth, just as Sirius is the soul of our sun. So we have this relation in Libra that the traditional ruler Venus give an emphasis on friendship, diplomacy, on relation, and the esoteric ruler is Uranus. We had the first impulse in Libra, Venus, diplomacy, but Uranus, Aquarian age, because Uranus is also mundane in Aquarius ruler. Wow. So we have a loop. We have already a geometry. We have a flow of energy since 1980s. The next Saturn Jupiter conjunction will take place 2040 in Libra. So this is a real active loop. This is like a pulsar taking place right now. The mantra of Aquarius is "Water of life am I, poured forth for thirsty mankind." And of Libra, I choose the path between the power lines. So these signs are active within the next 20 years, and they are active since 1980s. 2060, Gemini will come into place with the second ray love wisdom. The esoteric ruler is Venus. Okay. Wasn't there the first conjunction taking place in Libra that has the traditional ruler Venus? Yes. You get it. You get it. If you're listening, then you get it. So we will have another view on relation, on Venus as a higher aspect of Earth. And in Gemini, it is about triangling the polarities. You may know that one of the Geminis is seen as dark, the other is seen as light. One can never gain to the light, the other can not visit the other in the dark. And however you say, they both cannot meet, so they are the symbolism of opposites. But in esoteric astrology, Gemini is the sign that is the transmitter of cosmic energies. It is the inflow, the pure inflow of the energy of the solar system. And its energy is here to triangulate. So you have one side of the story, the other side of the story. And in Gemini, through the process of thinking, you can gain the insight on the third aspect, the higher view on it, where you see that both issues connect to the same thing. They are just two sides of the story. And the third aspect is to see the bigger picture. And therefore the triangle makes sense also. So when 2060 comes and we form the triangle, it will be really like a wheel that is starting to turn. And we will see a difference in Venus regarding, I think, if you are thinking about humanity without any money or payment system like it is mentioned in Star Trek, that you do not have a currency any longer because everyone can get access to everything. Then this is the time, 2060, that there may be new thought forms, new projects, or new theories arising how you could deal without money or with money as a different way of life, how to see the value of life in a different way. And also it will be between 0 and 1 degree Gemini, the Saturn Jupiter conjunction taking place, and this is then really the impact that every ingress into another sign will have more impact than right now. It maybe shape astrology in a very new way. I don't know whether you know the rule, but the rule so far is if a slow planet is changing a sign, then you have, for instance, impact in earthquakes. And stuff like this could increase, but I think this rule may broaden, that other meaning get into it, that we may get more and more impulses, thought forms, wisdom, teachings, philosophies, Jupiter as philosophy, ideals, that we get a real inflow of wisdom systems whenever a planet is doing an ingress into another sign. That we do not have also these earthly impacts, but that we really get an inflow of new libraries, cosmic libraries opening to humankind, so that there is really the water of life flowing down, poured forth for thirsty mankind. We will get really with each ingress, with each changing of the signs that a planet is going to take place, we will get new inflow of information that is going to take place. The mantra for Gemini is, I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self I grow and glow. It is a symbolism of the soul and the ego, and therefore of the fusion of body and soul. So the Gemini is the integration, the real point of integration of a soul-infused body. And therefore, the whole being grows, and glow is the opening of the light body taking place then. Short summary. I have to really breathe because I was so in the esoteric realm now. Coming back, 1980s, started the year cycle. Therefore, it is the impulse for the coming 200 years in the year signs. Saturn Jupiter came together with Pluto. They met first and then met Pluto. And they had their connections with each other and their power game going on, and therefore new thought forms of cooperation and diplomacy, of community, interconnection, United Nations, power struggles, bridging were born. The Cold War ended. It was the path between the power lines. It was the fall of the Berlin Wall, then taking place 88, and the Iron Curtain fell. And America was the only hegemon. 2020, America is no longer the only hegemon. Pluto met with Saturn and Jupiter on each term, and then Saturn and Jupiter met. Capricorn is a sign for government, so we had a lot of stuff going on in government and regimes taking place. But in Aquarius now, after considering all the power struggles with governments, they bring new thought forms of cooperation and brotherhood, equality, and about a new unity on Earth. And I mentioned that the European Union may be one of the examples of the coming time that wants to be an example for that. America is no longer hegemon, and maybe we get a multi-hegemonic structure. Maybe that BRICS states may come to power, but I think for the least that North and South issues like North industrial states, South third world states will dissolve. We will get more equality on life regarding this. It is about active intelligence, the thought forms, an inspiration of the coming age of Aquarius serve humanity and Earth. It is a bigger thinking, or think bigger in interconnection. 2040 in Libra. It is a re-evaluation of the 1980s, a shortcut to Saturn, Jupiter, and Aquarius due to the rulers that that are interlocked, interconnected. And then 2060, that will be the real whammy, the real gate opener, because it is about triangulation, polarities, esoteric, a very important horoscope between 0 and 1 degree Gemini with Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus conjunction. All three are together. So the esoteric ruler of Gemini and the mundane ruler of Libra will be together with Saturn Jupiter, so it will be a very, very big door opening towards a new time. And with that, I show you how I look. This is the face to the voice. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoy the coming years and decades to come. Be prepared for insights. Be prepared for new thoughts, for new insights, for new wisdoms, for libraries open to you, for instance, during sleep or in meditation. And remember, it is here to serve humanity and Earth. It is very important that we honor Earth. And with that, I wish you the very best, and I wish America the very best for the coming time. See you.